All right. Last part of chapter 8.3 is very similar to what we did in 8.1 and 8.2. We're going to be solving equations, but this time we're going to have the variable be on both sides of the equation. And apparently, a while since I did. Yep. All right. So here we have variables on either side of the equation. Oh, okay. So let me close this. Sorry, something happened with the pen, so hopefully I can get it to work now. Now, the idea is we want our variable, our letter, okay, to be on one side of the equation and the terms without the variable on the other side of the equation. Now, the easiest rule is always move smallest number first, smallest coefficient first. That's really the kind of the first thing we do. So we look at our terms that have the variable 4w and 6w and which one's smaller. So 4w is smaller than 6w. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this. Okay, I'm going to get rid of it on this side by subtracting 4w. Again, what I do to one side, I have to do the other. 4w. So if I do minus 4w over here, I have to do minus 4w over here. Here, that leaves me with the sign included. Negative 12 is equal to 6 minus 4 is 2w minus 8. Now this is similar to what we did last class, which is now I need to get the variable by itself, so I get rid of the constant. Again, because it's minus, we do the opposite, which is add. We add 8, and we get negative 4 is equal to 2w. And the last thing we do is divide by the coefficient. Okay? So divide both sides by 2. Whatever the coefficient is, what we divide by. So we get negative 4 over 2. Negative 2 is equal to. So the answer is negative 2. That's pretty much how most of these are going to play out. Now, it's going to get a little harder as it goes, so the way it usually goes. And the next one. A little harder. Right, we got to simplify first. Simplify first. Okay, so on this side, we got to get rid of parentheses first. So we're going to take this negative 6, and we're going to multiply that by both numbers inside. Now here, there's not a number out front. So we want to put a understood 1 here. We're going to take a negative 1 and multiply both numbers 1. So nothing to do with the negative 7 and nothing to do with the positive 3. So we're just going to bring those down. Negative 7. Negative 6 times 6 is negative 36. Okay. Negative 6 times 6 is negative 36. Negative 1 times both these. Negative 1 times 3y is negative 3y. And negative 1 times 8 is 8. Bring down. So we simplified. Right? Next thing to do is combine like terms. So simplify by getting rid of parentheses. And then combine like terms. Now, on both sides of the equation, here I have a negative 7 and a negative 36. I don't have any other y's over here, so I'm just going to bring down the negative 36y. But -7 and -36, since they're both negative, you're going to add them together. Sign -7, -36 is -43. All right, like terms here, 8 and +3, so bring down the -3y. -8 plus 3 is -5. All right, and now we have something similar to what we just solved in number 1. So I'm going to move the smaller of the two. Now, the odd thing is the smaller of the two here is actually the -36 because it's negative. That is smaller than -3. So I'm going to add 36 over. That's going to cancel out here. I'm going to bring down the -43. This should be +35. All right, next I'm going to add 5. Okay. -43 plus 5 is -38. 33y. Last thing we do, always last thing we do, divide by the coefficient. Now, I could put that in the calculator, see it reduces. I know it's not going to reduce. So I'm just going to plug it in my answer here. The fraction button. Forward fraction. -38 over 33. An answer. And there we go. Again, simplify by getting rid of the parentheses, and then combine like terms. All right, and then we go into solving by getting your variables on one side. Doesn't matter which side you get your variables on. Just move the smallest. It's usually easier to move the smallest. And then we solve by getting rid of the constant and dividing. Right, now we have decimals, so actually a little bit easier this one. Decimals aren't really much of a problem. So I'm going to move the smallest between 6.1 and 0.5 is 0.5, so minus 0.5 w gives me 5.6 w plus 0.2 equals -3.4. So now I have my w, only one w here. Okay. So I need to get rid of the constant, minus 2.2, minus 0.2. Rid of that, so I have 5.6w equals -5.6. All right, last thing we do, divide by the coefficient. And -5.6 divided by 5.6, -1. Go. It's pretty much just going to be a lot of this. Okay. So, all right. I have to break out the calculator in a second. The first thing we're going to do is move the smaller. Now, the smaller between 3/4 and 5/4 is 3/4, so minus 3/4. Actually, you know what? I'm going to teach you a bit of trick here. No, let's do it this way. Let's do it. So minus 3/4. Minus 3/4 y. Now, 5/4 minus 3/4. You don't worry about the y. Just know the y is going to be tacked on in the end. Since they have the same base, we subtract 5 minus 3. We get -1/4 equals 2/4y plus 1/8. Now this does reduce to 1/2. I don't have to reduce it, honestly. Don't have to reduce it all until I'm done. So it doesn't really matter. So the next thing I'm going to do is minus the 1/8 over. 1/8. Now, here's what you can do. You can do this. -1/4 minus 1/8. I can't do anything until they have the same base. To make 4 into 8, I'm going to multiply by 2, but what I do at the bottom, I do at the top. We get -2/8 minus 1/8 equals -3/8. So feel free to do all that work with fractions. Or you can just type in your calculator that So it is negative 1 over 4 minus 1 over 8. Enter, and it gives you negative 3/8. Okay, so feel free to use your calculator. Okay, don't waste your time trying to figure out fractions. It's not a big deal at this point. You have calculators, use them. Okay, so we get gone. So we have negative 3 over 8 equals 2 over 4y. And the very last thing we do is divide by the coefficients. So divide by 2 over 4 and divide by positive divide. Divide by 2 over 4. So that's going to be, I'm just going to put that in the calculator. Feel free to do this a different way. There's more than one way I'm going to do it, okay? I'm going to show you a different way to do this at a moment to maybe make this easier, okay? But if you're fine using a calculator, use your calculator. So we got negative 3 over 8 divided by 2 over 4. Enter. Negative 3/4 is the answer, so put it in. 3 over 4. Answer. Now, that's one way to do it. I'm going to show you another way to do this that may make it easier for you. And that's to find what's called the lowest common denominator. Which is usually going to be the biggest number. Basically, since 8 is a multiple of 4, that's my lowest common denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply everything by 8. Now, what's going to happen is the 4 and the 8 will cancel, giving you 1 and 2. So I have 2 times 3, so 6y. The 4, again, 1, 8, and 2, they cancel, they reduce. Minus 2 times 1, so 2. Equals, again, the 4 and the 8 reduced. 10y, and that just cancels out, plus 1. So, same step, move the smallest y, minus 6y, y. Negative 2 equals 4y. Subtract the 1 over. Negative 3 equals 4y. Then divide by 4. Negative 3/4, right there. So, again, that's another way to do it. Feel free to use your calculator. Feel free to do it this way. Your choice at this point. Pick which way made more sense to you and do it that way. All right, so again, another parentheses. We got to get rid of the parentheses first. Always get rid of the parentheses. Simplify. Multiply these through. So negative 0.8 times a is negative 0.8a. Negative 0.8 times negative 0.5 is positive 4. Oh, 0.4. 0.4. Negative 0.7 times a is negative. Or sorry, that's not negative. It's positive. So 0.7a minus 0.7 times 1, 4, which is 0.98. Right. So the smallest between these two is the negative, so I'm going to add 0.8 over. 0.4 equals 1.5a minus 9.8. So I'm going to add 9.8 over. Gives you 10.2 equals 1.5a. So last thing to do, divide by 1.5. So 10 divided by 1.5. And I'm going to get my calculator out. 10.2 in 0.2 divided by 1.5, 6.8. There we go. Alright, again, another parenthesis question, so simplify. Making sure you multiply both of them by 2. 3z minus 16 is equal to 8z6. Since 3z is smaller than 8z, I'm going to subtract 3z. Negative 16 equals 5z 6. Add that 6 over to get the variable by itself. Get rid of the constant. Negative 10 is equal to 5z. Lastly, divide by 5. Negative 2 is equal to 0. And there it is. I think it's pretty easy. It's not too bad. That's very similar to one we just did. Okay. I can't skip these. I forget I'm on the certify, so I'm going to be doing all these. All right. So 2 times 2 and 2 times 5, 7 times 1x, 7 times 6. That's 4x plus 10 equals 7 times 1x, 7x plus 42 plus 17. So nothing else to simplify over here, but we need to combine like terms over here. 4x plus 10 equals 7x plus 9. So subtract the smaller one. Minus 4x minus 4x. Get 10 is equal to 3x minus plus 59. Right. Now we get the constant, get rid of the constant, so we get the coefficient variable by itself, so minus 59, 9, negative 49 to 3x. Lastly, divide by 3, which does not reduce, so I'm just going to leave it negative 49. Just a few more left to go. Okay. So similar. Now here, since usually what I would do is I would move the smaller variable, but in this case, since I only have 3w over here, I'm just going to move this over here. I'm going to subtract 7w. Gives you negative 36 equals negative 4w. And that's, you see how we have a negative left over here? That's why we usually want to move the smaller value. It's because we don't have a negative left over on a smaller one. So divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. We get 9 is equal to w. There is one solution. That solution is 9. All right, let's look at this. So we are going to subtract the smaller one now. So minus w. 5w minus 5, 10. Add 5, 5w, 15, divide by 5. One solution, w is equal to 3. Now you might be asking, when is there no solution? Well, there's no solution. Or sorry, when there's no solution are all real numbers. There's two choices. If your variables cancel, okay, basically if your variables left over, you have one solution. This right here, both these, is if you have no variables left. So when you solve and you get something like 3 is equal to 5 or negative 2 is equal to 7, then there's no solution. But if you solve and there's no variables left and you get 10 is equal to 10, okay, or 0 is equal to 0, okay, or 5 is equal to 5, something like that, or negative 5 is equal to negative 5, doesn't make a difference. And when you get the same number, it's all real numbers. But if you have different numbers, no solution. That's how you know which one it is. Basically, the variables have to cancel out, then it's going to be one of these two. You can tell by what's left over. Okay. Let's look at what's going to happen here. I'm going to distribute first. Always distribute first. 4 times that, we get 4w plus 20 equals 4w plus 20. Hey, same equation. So what happens when I subtract 4w on both sides? To move your variable over, I get 20 is equal to 20. So here, since the variable is canceled out, I know it has to be one of these two. And since I got the numbers equal to itself, then the answer is all real numbers. I'm sure we'll see one that's no solution in a moment. Maybe not. You might see one that's no solution, okay, on the homework. Again, that's if you get two different numbers. If instead of like 20 is equal to 20, I got negative 10 is equal to 20, or 2 is equal to 20. Like that. Here it's very similar. We can, again, all this you can just ignore. It's just jargon at this point because no one cares. I just want you to solve this. The first thing, combine like terms. That gives you 2,000 plus 4x equals 950 plus 7x. Subtract the smaller variable first. 2,000 equals 950 plus 3x minus 950. That gives you 1050 equal to x. Divide by 3. We get 35? 50? 350 boxes. Yep, there we go. Probably have another one of these. Okay, yeah. This seems like a bit of a mess. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do that trick that we did before, which is just to multiply everything by the denominator. So that times 28, that times 28, that times 28. A nice thing is that's going to cancel. Okay, don't forget this times 28 too. So calculator, because I don't know 18 times 28. So I can figure it out there. $564. Oh, 504. Okay, yeah. So that's why you have a calculator. All right, so we have 504. Okay, that times 28, 504. That cancels, so minus 3x. 12 times 28, which would be 280. $34. Twelve times 8. 336. Okay. Again, calculator for a reason. 36. 2x. So again, move the smaller one, but it happens to be because it's negative. This one's the smaller one, so I'm going to add 3x over. That out 504, 336 plus 1x, or just x. Then lastly, get rid of the coefficient, subtract 3, 6. And we get borrow first. 1, 8 equals 1x, which is just x. There it is. So, okay. That's it for 8.3. Next up, I think, is, let me see. Chapter 9. All right, so chapter 9 will be next week, and then chapter 10 the following week. And then chapter 11.3. And we'll be done. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and just set the review and the final for foundations. Not too much time left, okay?